Here's our review of the adidas Terrex Speed Ultra. It's a trail running shoe for the kind of fast, the speed part, and then the ultra part. It weighs 9.15 ounces, 259 grams US 9 a men's, and 8.24 ounces, 234 grams in a women's US 8. So we've taken it out to run in Nebraska on the rolling hills across the plains and in New Hampshire on forest trails, dirt roads, and some pavement. And we also will have in the review a number of comparisons towards the end, as this is a shoe that fits in that fast sort of race category on the trail and on mixed terrain. Hey everybody, Sam from RoadTrailRun. Renee out in Nebraska, the plains of Nebraska, and I recently tested the adidas Terrex Speed Ultra, which was inspired and with feedback from Tom Evans of the UK, who in his very short so far career has won the TerraUltra in New Zealand, CCC at the UTMB, and was third in the Marathon des Sables. So the Speed Ultra has a 26 millimeter heel and 18 millimeter forefoot stack, and it has 2.5 millimeter lugs, and it has a really wonderful upper here, which is a very simple mesh, but with many underlays, which are to the touch are sort of a soft suede material. So it gives a really great lockdown of the foot. Both Renee and I agree. I had some pinky toe pressures when they were new, but they stretched out. So this is a race fit kind of shoe and a race fit kind of ride. I'd like to say that it brings something old and something new. Of course, we got Continental Rubber, as we often find in Adidas. In terms of the new, we have Lightstrike foam here, which replaces EVA. We had Lightstrike in the SL20 road shoe, and it's in some other Adidas. I think the new Boston may have it. So it's a fairly firm foam, but lighter and with a little bit of bounce. It was sort of a race type feel in the SL20. So I was looking forward to a shoe with it in a trail shoe. Because it is relatively firm. You can see that it's an 8 millimeter drop shoe. Of course, the rest of the midsole, we've got Boost, which is kind of from the old days of Adidas, but it's in this implementation, it's a really good approach to heel cushioning. And in combination with the outsole and the Lightstrike, you have a really kind of low slung, yet well-cushioned ride. Some of the other olds is we do have a torsion system, which extends sort of through here, and it also extends a little bit forward, a couple, 2 or 3 lugs, maybe for a touch of rock protection there. But this is a flexible shoe. You can see here, climbing flex, and it's a flex that reminds also of the Adidas race flats like the adios. So you could think of this as sort of a trail version of the Boston or the adios, at least some of the older ones. And that's how it kind of feels. It's actually kind of more forgiving, I think, on the road than some of those. Yet it stays really nicely stable. We both agreed, even though it doesn't have a big heel counter, maybe on kind of off camber, it gets a little squirrely, but it's really quite low to the ground and stable. In terms of its weight, it comes in at a really quite reasonable 9.15 ounces, 259 grams in a US 9. And Renee's women's US 8 was 8.24 grams, 234 grams. So that's right in the ballpark with some of the other lighter trail shoes that we'll do in the comparison. So, okay, it isn't trail today, but it's still mighty pretty, and our Speed Ultra is very good on the road. Reminds me of a Boston with a softer forefoot, maybe not quite as snappy. Heel feels about the same, maybe a touch softer. So if you're in older Boston, pretty good comparable here. So it's a great road to trail shoe. Not exactly mountains, but let's talk about the fit of our Speed Ultra. So I am true to size, yes. At first they were a little narrow feeling on the pinky toe side. That has stretched out a bit, but I would say if you are a wider foot, you may struggle, especially if the pinky toe bothers you. The tongue is really neat. It's kind of a leatherette, but it has padding on the back down part way. It wraps with the gusset tongue really well. The laces have a lot of gription on them, a lot of kind of texture, so you can kind of adjust your foot as you wish. Renee used that extra lace hole on the near the forefoot. I didn't need to, but she did for her narrower foot. I took mine on a number of runs on more mild forest kind of paths, and as well as some road, some dirt road, and they did well everywhere. When you put them on, they go on a little bit hard. That's good with the gusset and the kind of narrow opening, because we do not have a heel counter, as I said earlier, but everything is well held. We have our Boost, and then this new Lightstrike. I think overall I've got more cushion in the forefoot than in the Boston. There's plenty of cushion here for me anyway, for up to say 25 or 30 kilometers of smoother trail. More technical, a lot of people will be able to handle it, and further because it is called Ultra. But I would say for most this is more the speed trail shoe than the Ultra, but definitely worth a try. The ride is kind of low slung yet cushion, so you feel the road. Your foot's always in contact. It's very stable, even though it's kind of narrow platform, and there's a lot of kind of front agility because we have so much nice flex up front. So I'm going to keep going. In terms of the fit, it was true to size for both of us, but this is kind of a race fit. So you're very, very secure. The toe box, as I said, expanded. There's enough hold here, although there's not much of a heel counter. So this is more focused on a race fit and agility. So some of the pros, obviously the upper. We have that squishy, soft Boost heel, which kind of makes it run more cushion than its relatively low stack of 2618. We both agreed on that. It's fast and agile on both road and trail. The climbing flex and the low profile, and this pretty amazing grippy Continental outsole, which despite these teeny 2.5 millimeter lugs, which you can't even really see with the camouflage, did well really on all surfaces. I even took it on some kind of thin but really slippery mud, and it held there well too. The wear should be excellent. I will say, except for a bit of the torsion right through about to here, there probably, and we haven't taken on mountainous terrain, there isn't a ton of rock protection, but there's enough, and you get a kind of an agile, low to the ground feel as you work your way through obstacles. So if you're a agile, faster runner as an ultra shoe, it's a great choice. For the rest of it, and Renee felt that it could be for her. She had some issues in terms of the cons, in terms of the pressures at the midfoot, at the arch, maybe from the torsion system, which might limit the distance for her. I didn't feel really any of that, although you do notice the torsion. So the torsion plastic makes this a relatively torsionally stiff shoe, but with enough motion to kind of work over terrain, and then you've got that front flex for climbing and also kind of for going fast. So that's a big plus here. Let me just look at my notes. I did feel that it kind of slow paces. The heel felt a bit low, the Boost, but as soon as you pick up the pace, it gets lively and bouncy. We also noted some creasing of the Lightstrike. I maybe have 25 miles on mine, maybe 20 to 25. You see some creasing, so we need to keep an eye on the long-term longevity. One other con might be the pricing at $160. which is kind of roughly comparable to the kind of the up-tempo, faster trail shoe pricing. But it's a bit up there. I think really what you're paying for is not so much the kind of tried and true undercarriage here, but this incredible upper. You can see all those overlays, underlays. It really, really wraps the foot beautifully. There's our lateral side, and then on our medial side, we have a seam, if you will, at the pink, which connects the two sides, and yet more overlays that are differential based on the sides. So let's look a bit at inside here. You can see how breathable it is, yet the mesh is dense enough. I think it'll do a decent job keeping out debris. It'll certainly drain water really well. The tongue, I think, is really cool here. It wraps around the foot, and that with a gusset here that really holds the foot well. Maybe that in part maybe is what was bothering Renee, but it didn't bother me. You've got really no heel counter. It's flexible. This overlay kind of keeps things in place. Moderate padding, just enough. This is a race kind of shoe, but can go the distance. So in conclusion, the adidas Terrex SpeedUltra, it has something old, it has something new. The old being, we got our classic Boost, we've got our fine Continental Rubber, the new being the Lightstrike, and this incredible upper. It's an all-around faster paced trail and door-to-trail shoe. Most folks, I think, might struggle a bit in highly technical terrain with it, unless you're super agile and nimble, as Tom is. But for the rest of us, it makes a great option for just about any more moderate trail and just about any pace. I found even slow paces, if a bit low, were just fine. And as soon as you pick up the pace, that front flexibility and the combination of the Boost and the Lightstrike really pop you along. It's not super responsive. There's no real front plate. It's not a rocker-based shoe. It's a bit more traditional in that sense. Okay, let's do some comparisons. First, the Innovate TerraUltra G270. For both Renee and I, it was our favorite trail shoe of 2020. It's very close in cushion stack up front to the 8mm drop SpeedUltra, but it is a zero drop shoe, so the SpeedUltra feels a little more cushion. We think that the forefoot is a bit more protected in the G270. The uppers are similar. And of course, with that graphene grip outsole, you've got probably a more versatile kind of outsole for more technical terrain. So it really comes down to, in this lightweight category, if you can run the zero drop. At least for me, I wouldn't run the TerraUltra quite as far as the SpeedUltra, but I'd take it on more technical terrain. The Skechers Razor Trail has more cushion stack, so it's a more cushioned shoe. It weighs an ounce lighter. However, it does not have as beefy an outsole or quite the technical chops that I think we think the SpeedUltra has. So it really depends. If your trails are really smooth, you might want to lean towards the Razor Trail, but for more technical, go towards our SpeedUltra. The Salomon S-Lab Pulsar is almost 3 ounces or 85 grams lighter. It has a similar forefoot stack with even some light rock protection, but it does have a lower heel at 23 versus 26 here, and that is sort of felt because if you're not moving fast and on your forefoot, to really get its rocker to work, you've got to be forward and really on it. Its upper is superb, all matrix. The midsole blend of the foam, I think, is probably livelier and at least as well cushioned, but the geometry really favors a forefoot, midfoot strike and really good form, unlike the pace-friendly SpeedUltra. It's only $20 more. So if you're for the short kind of trail races for most of us, and if you've got that form, it's an option to look at. The Adidas XT Boost, one of my all-time favorites, reviewed it back in 2015. So this is a really smooth, fast door-to-trail shoe. It had greater lug depth. The rear was a very firm EVA. The front had the Boost, so there was plenty of kind of forefoot cushion. There was a hardened EVA plate, I think, underneath the Boost, so it was a more responsive shoe. So it was a faster shoe in some ways, but not nearly as cushioned. Topo Athletic Mountain Racer 2, so it's considerably heavier, an ounce and 0.2, where it comes in at 10.3 ounces, 295 grams. It's a tri-density midsole. It's more stable. It's more cushioned. It has a bit more rock protection just because of its deeper lugs and its the deeper midsole. It's not quite the speedster that the SpeedUltra is, but for most people, I think it will take you further. It has kind of a rocker profile versus a flex. A really good shoe. It's coming in June. The Sense Pro 4 from Salomon is really at about the same weight, your more technical kind of oriented shoe. It has a snugger yet upper, it has deeper lugs, and a considerably firmer midsole feel with a more dense kind of feel to the cushion stack and more rock protection because there's a profile plate. So it's a shoe for fast going on technical terrain or in looser terrain, looser conditions. It's not nearly as friendly or agile ride to its firmness and its stiffness. So if your trails are smoother for your speed, go with our SpeedUltra. If it's the more technical you need, lean towards the Sense Pro 4. The Switchback 2 from Saucony with its boa closure. These can be thought of comparable shoes. The Switchback has slightly more aggressive lugs and a rock plate, but it's not nearly as cushioned. Renee found that the midsole to be firm, kind of hard for anything more than 15 miles. I would agree with her. It does have more front protection, but not quite as much support. Here, in our estimation, you definitely go SpeedUltra in that category. Great new option from Adidas. And you can also check out our full written multi-tester review. I have it linked here. So the adidas Terrex SpeedUltra, it's available now. A great new option from adidas Terrex.